people, welcome to my podcast Life Adventures Taught Me. Today we'll be talking about time in the nature, gardening. If you have been listening to my previous episodes, now you will notice there won't be so many S's and Z's like high pitch note. Because I bought microphone interface, so I bought some better equipment, so the future episodes are gonna be with more quality. So today we will talk about time in the nature, more specifically about gardening. From a general point of view, I think that nowadays people spend too little time in the nature. We do not spend enough time in natural environment because the modern life and the modern way of living has forced us to be cut off from the nature and the natural surrounding. The most of our time we spend between four walls. Whether it's an office, our home, or some indoor activity, spending so much time inside, I believe it's a significant reason why nowadays so many people feel more nervous and unsatisfied with their life. One of the reasons is because we don't spend enough time in the natural conditions and the conditions that are meant for us. But it doesn't need to be that way. Lately I have noticed the more I get older, the more I love spending time in the nature. And I have realized that for me, the value of my time and the value of being with myself has increased a lot lately. And that's why I'm trying to change my life more in that direction, spending more time in the nature. So I will tell you the things that I've been doing, and the name of today's episode is with more direction towards gardening. So I'll be talking about that, and that's the reason why I started more gardening, because I have realized how good impact it has on me. Also lately, when I see something natural, let's say the natural behavior of a random person, I receive so much good energy from it. And I guess it's because in the world in general, in my surrounding, there is too little natural people and with happy natural behavior. So when I see it, I really do appreciate it when I see people like that, and it overwhelms me with such a good energy. Also, something that I have noticed that is really rare is polite and educated behavior towards other people. I have realized that people do not really treat each other with respect. It's kind of rare to see. Honest, natural way of treating people with respect is really rare. And that's something that I would like to talk about in another episode. And from this, I just want to say that as an outcome of all of this, I want to say that I want to spend less time with too many people and people who are not really my vibe. And I want to spend more time with myself and in the nature. So that's why I started doing gardening. It gives me so much pleasure, freedom, and peace. I have, for the first time, in 2022, I saw it as okay, I can do a challenge, I can do gardening, and I can see how it goes. So in 2022, I did it for the first time on a serious level. I saw and planted a lot of different plants, like vegetables mostly, and I was cultivating them for the whole season during the spring, summer, and autumn, and I had really good results. Not all of them did survive, but I just want to tell you more about it, how it went and how I felt throughout this period. So I started seeding from the end of February. That's in our continental climate, that's the period when we start with gardening and with the preparation things. It depends on the plant. Some of the plants you can seed them at the end of February and March, some of them in April, and some of them in May. For example, pumpkin, you seed it at the start of May. Corn, you start seeding it in April. And for example, peas I did at the end of February. So each plant, it has its own period when it is the best to seed it, because some of them are more resilient to the frost. So some of the plants, they tolerate better winter, some of them do not. So at the start of the season I learned how to put certain seeds in the ground, how to seed them, in what depth and in what period of time. And the next period, the period that comes, you need to protect them from the frost. If there is frost, you never know how it's gonna be the weather nowadays. Like the last years, the weather is changing a lot, so really warm weather comes, and after that really cold, and then again really warm. So you need to follow it in order. If there is coming a really cold wave of weather, you need to protect them from the frost, otherwise all of the plants, they can die, and even the seed can freeze. So during the next period I learned how to protect them. I was watering all of the seeds and all of the plants, and also when they start already growing I needed to cultivate them. I didn't know this word with digging hoe. Funny word, but yeah, I was using a lot of digging hoe, and you need to cultivate them. And when you clean a certain area of other weeds and you look at that area that is cleaned, where is the plant that you cultivate, it gives you so much satisfaction and good feeling. It's like satisfaction videos. You look at that area that you have just cleaned and you see the change. Like when you start cleaning from the other weed that grows around the plant that you are cultivating. From the start it's all messy, full of plants, and after that it looks clean and there is only the other weeds. And when you see the change from the start, you feel like it's the same like the satisfaction video. You feel good, you feel proud of yourself because you see the changes you have already made. It's, for example, whatever work that you do, sometimes we don't see the change immediately, but here you do see it, how it is cleaned, and then it gives you satisfaction and the feeling of feeling good and proud of doing something like that because you already see the change. So there's just one good feeling that I get from gardening. And then comes the last period, is the harvest. When you pick the products, when you pick the vegetables, that's also a really interesting period because here you can see all the results, what you did before, but the harvest for the different plants, different vegetables and fruits, it comes in different periods. So there is no like specific part where you do only seeding, for example, in the start of March. No, you have like for different plants different periods of doing it. So for example, you can do seeding for something in May and you already have the harvest for some product from before that you already did. For example, radish, you seed it at the end of February, start of March, and you already have it at the end of April, start of May. And for example, at the start of May you seed pumpkin. So different plants, they have different periods of seeding and harvest, but generally when it comes harvest, you see all your effort that you did at the harvest, how many products you have, how many vegetables, how many fruits, and it depends a lot to the weather and how much did you water, if the season was too dry and if you did water them enough, or if the season was really rainy and you didn't need to do a lot of watering. But there is a big change that I have noticed. I remember in my childhood, my parents, they didn't need, or in period of my grandparents, they didn't use any pesticides or, how can I say, poisons for plants and insects in order to protect plant that you are cultivating. And these years I see that people use it more and more, and I have realized also in my garden that it's really hard to cultivate a plant now because there are so many things that are affecting bad on it. First of all, insects, different animals that are eating, for example, even the roots of the plant, something that is changing like nowadays. In the last years it's so much harder like to cultivate plants because they became so much more sensitive, and I don't know why it's happening. I'm not gonna go too much in the conspiracy theories, but the change is noticeable, and the plants are really harder to grow without some pesticides and poisons for other plants, insects, animals, in order to cultivate and to get the products from your plant. So this year 2024 I have also decided to do it, and I also started it at the start of March. And this year the biggest problem for me was a mole. It killed so many plants that I seeded or planted in the garden. And besides the mole that is on the first place, there was frost. So the end of March it was 30 degrees, which is not normal at all for the continental weather climate over here. So it was really warm for 2 weeks, and after these 2 weeks, at the start of April, came a really cold wave. Not super cold, but much colder wave comparing to the previous one. And at the start of April it was cold, and there was frost in the morning for a few days, and the frost is really dangerous for the plants that had just started growing, and frost killed a lot of my watermelons, melons, and different other plants. So it's on the second place of my enemy this year in my garden. And on the third place it's some black bug that was attacking the plants such as cabbage, Brussels sprouts, broccoli, cauliflower, rocket, and radish. So these plants were attacked by this black bug, and it killed a big part of them. So during gardening you need to fight with a lot of impacts, with a lot of different things, in order to preserve your plant. So I have realized gardening, it's not easy at all. You need to be in the garden a lot of hours during the day and during the week, so you need to give it a lot of attention. I really like it because it's spending time in the nature, and after gardening I really do feel good, and I feel more in peace, and my mind feels cleaner. So gardening, it has a lot of positive impact on physical and mental and emotional well-being. And on the first place, it's a physical exercise that you do with, for example, digging hole or other tools that you use for gardening. It's a lot of physical exercise, so whenever I do gardening I sleep like a baby, so I really get tired. It works also as a stress relief. Spending time in the nature and engaging in gardening activities, it can reduce stress levels, and you feel more relaxed, and overall you improve mental health. Also, from gardening you get some of the benefits are, as I mentioned before, you get the fresh product because you grow your own fruits, vegetables and herbs. And one really important thing, what I've realized after doing gardening for 2 years in a more serious level, is that gardening fosters a deeper connection to nature and the environment. And after this experience you have more appreciation and understanding of natural processes. And to have a successful garden, it requires a lot of planning and maintaining of the garden, and it also requires learning and applying the knowledge about plants that you have just learned, and also about the soil and weather, and that keeps the mind active and engaged. So if somebody is doing that for a living, it really requires a lot of energy and a lot of time, and it's not easy at all. So I really do admire people who do really huge gardens, and they are really successful, because nowadays there is more and more problems for them, like to keep the plants safe and preserved until they get vegetables, fruits from it. And I really do admire them because it's a lot of work, and I feel like every day it takes more and more work. And in order to have a successful garden, I'm sure you need at least some 3, 4, 5 years, even more years of experience working in the garden in order to learn about specific plant, all the things, because I believe that you cannot learn all about one specific plant, you cannot learn all about it in just 1 year and 1 season, because 1 year and 1 season will bring different impacts and effects on it. For example, if it's a warm weather, and you will realize how the plant is behaving with that weather and what it needs, like how you need to treat it in those conditions. But the next year and the years after, every year is gonna be kind of different, and to have a general knowledge about the specific plant, I think it needs at least 4 to 5 years so you can realize the most of the impacts on that plant. So it's not easy at all. People who do gardening at the start, they needed like for sure many years with not so successful garden at the start. And I don't want to say that my garden was like shitty and that I didn't have nice plants. I did have, but big part of them died because of they got dry. Either I didn't give them enough water, or they had too much water, or because of the mold. As I said, this animal killed this year too many plants because of the frost. I didn't protect them on the time, because also in the forecast, the weather forecast, they didn't say it's gonna be frost, but actually there was. So you learn many different things, and now I can say that I have like so much more knowledge how to treat other plants, how to see them, and I'm really proud of that. And that's something that in the future I would like to focus myself more, because I feel not lately, but all of us, we really do not eat healthy, because the products from the market that we buy in the shops, also it's not healthy at all. It has a lot of E330, E475, a lot of this E. I think those are, I didn't read too much, but it's artificial thing. And as I said, like I like more natural things, and I try to keep myself surrounded by as many natural things as I can. And I also want to eat healthy, because even the fruits and vegetables that we buy in the markets and different shops, they have a lot of chemicals in them, and they were treating them with a lot of pesticides and toxic, as I said. And I want to grow plants without, sometimes you need to use these pesticides in the gardening in order to preserve them, but I will try to learn to do it with really little impact of that. And I want to learn how to do gardening and have my products that are much healthier than the ones from the shops, because I really think that in the future it will be necessary that you know how to grow your plants. And I know that majority of people of my age, they don't know how to do it, because I don't know, the modern life, it's not only the blame of them, it's the blame of the modern life too, that is separating us from the nature. So I'm getting back to the nature, and I think you should too, because there are only good benefits out of it. And when I say only good benefits, I mean everything in the world has its negative and positive sides, but I don't think that I should focus at all on negative things. I wouldn't know even to mention any negative thing right now, because I think that gardening brings you so much good, and I think that each person that is living in this planet needs to know to cooperate, cooperate with the nature, and to learn to live in the nature. We are too cut off, and this is my way of getting back to it. And I think each one of us needs to find at least some other ways to get back to nature in order to feel much better and much more satisfied with his life and more in peace, because we don't spend too much time in peace, and when we spend time in the nature we get so much peace. And that's why a lot of people are so disturbed and negative. And also, when you do gardening, you breathe improved air quality, because plants in the garden, they contribute to better air quality by absorbing carbon dioxide and releasing oxygen. And gardens can also provide habitats for various beneficial insects, birds, and other wildlife, promoting biodiversity. And all of these animals and insects, they are welcome in my garden, but that they don't eat the plant that I'm cultivating. because I've been fighting with a lot of different insects in order to preserve my plants. And the other day I saw in my garden pheasant, and that's a wild animal and it lives next to my garden, and it made me feel so good because I have realized with so many different animals that I saw and different birds, I really like to sit down and look at birds around from my house, because there is a lot of nature around my house and a lot of trees, and I see so many birds, and it just feels good because a lot of them they become because of the different plants that you have in your garden, vegetables, fruits that they can also eat. But it made me feel so connected, so good and connected to the nature, that I actually interact with them through the nature, with all of these animals. Sometimes they can make you angry because I know that I put so much effort to water some different plants, and when I see that they kill them one by one, of course you're not gonna feel good. So you need to fight for the plants, but also you need to not to stress about it. Accept it as it is, and also throughout the life. Like, you see how many things it teaches you gardening. Like, I've learned that I don't need to stress about it. I give my best, and these are the products that I will make. Some products will be for sure, and you try your best, but you accept the things as they are. So all of them can have a negative and bad impacts on it too, like my dogs. My dogs are all the time with me in the garden. One of them is really big and one of them is small. I love to go to garden with them, and every time they see me, they are so happy. They are run around me, and that also gives me so much pleasure to see them so happy, and then I feel also really happy. And they are waiting for me to open the gate of the garden and in order to run. So when I open the gate, they compete with each other. Both of them run as fast as they can. And usually the small one loses after a few meters, and he starts like whoa, 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 barking because he's losing. And that's the ritual that we have. And I go with these two dogs always in the garden, and they are like my best company because I really feel good with them. And sometimes, what I wanted to say, sometimes they are a bad impact on my garden because they, especially the big one, when he steps on a plant, he breaks it immediately. So many plants, they were destroyed by this dog. Okay, I scream at them, like if they go where they are not supposed to go, like out of the track. And kind of they already know, they are already a little bit trained, but sometimes you can scream as much as you want. They will go wherever they want and they will break few plants. So I accepted it, and I kind of learned the way to manage it. And they have sometimes the bad impact, but I try to see positivity in all of that, and I try to manage it in the best way, because the gardening wouldn't be the same thing without them. So as I said, you kind of accept it as it is and you try to do your best. So I don't let them every time in the garden during the day, every time I go, but most of the time I do let them, and they make a great company. And for the end, I just want to mention that I was really successful these 2 years. A big part of my plants have died, but I think that's the part of the process. Like every gardener who does the garden during the year, many plants they die and many plants they live. It's a normal thing. So I want to say that I was really successful, and I had so many different plants in my garden, and I would like to name some of them besides the ones that I already mentioned. Paprika, tomato, cherry tomato, zucchini, peanuts for the first time this year, beans, peas, string beans, cucumber, corns for popcorns, corns for cooking, eggplant, carrot, spinach, beet, chard, celery, parsnip, onion, leek, garlic, kohlrabi, lettuce, melon, watermelon, and many others. I didn't know even half of these names in English. But as you can see, so many different plants, and it took me a lot of work, and it still does. And in my garden we have many different fruits, and I will just mention cherries because the previous days and yesterdays I was picking cherries, and that's something I do from my childhood. They are one of my favorite fruits. You can also see the videos I'll put in the video of my podcast from this year picking cherries, and I like all of these activities in the nature. And I used to do it with my parents when I was smaller in my childhood, and I still do. And it gives me so much good feelings. It calls me back, it fills me with so much energy. And I'm also a person that gets bored if I rest too much, a longer time if I do nothing. I like to be active and productive. Oh, a good rhyme, active and productive. And here is where I would like to finish today's episode, but let's make a conclusion from this. Conclusion out of all of this is that we as human beings are the part of the nature, and in order to be happier and feel more natural, we need to get back to it. These were just some examples of me getting back to the nature, and I assure you, I feel so much better by implementing this change. And I want to add more things in nature like sports, because doing outside sports also is spending time in the nature. And you should check out what works for you the best, how you can get back to the nature to spend more time in it, and also in order to get back to your original natural feelings. And those are the feelings of being happy and satisfied in peace. That's something that we all are missing right now. Thank you for listening to today's episode. Until the next episode, implement these changes into your life and let me know how it worked in the comments. Also, you can give examples from your own experience of spending time in the nature. What are the things you learned from it, and what are the all good things that came back to you? Don't forget to subscribe to hear more stories like this. Follow me on YouTube and TikTok, Don Adventure, Spotify and Facebook page, Life Adventures Taught Me, and on Instagram, Don Alejandros. You can find all the links below in the description. Talk to you soon. Ciao, ciao.